Eternal source of life, I stand before you today to ask for your blessings as we come together to celebrate the graduating class of 2017. You have blessed them with the intellect and perseverance to achieve this milestone, and we ask today that you bless them with continued success and fulfillment. Help our graduates recognize that this is but one of many stops along each of their journeys. Bless them today as they continue on their paths and keep them safe. We give thanks to you, God, and acknowledge all who have contributed to make this day possible. Our students, their families, and the faculty and staff of Pomona College. We especially acknowledge and thank all of the mothers out there on this Mother's Day. We pray that our graduates will remember the lessons they learned here, both inside and outside the classroom, and we pray that they continue to expand upon these lessons wherever their journeys may take them. We hope they will continue to embody the values of Pomona College, for we know their worth is far greater than the accumulated knowledge that they have gained here in their time. We hope they cherish their learning, their experiences, their friendships, support, and love they found here, and that they bring them with them as they go out to create a better world. God bless our graduates, their families, and our community. May you continue to spread your knowledge, goodness, and love to all of your creations. Reassure our graduates that goodness lies ahead, and when they are needing guidance, remind them of this very day. Graduates, take a second to look at all of the people around you here. You should know that you can always turn to all of us for support and guidance. May God bless these graduates and bless Pomona College. Amen.
Please be seated. Good morning. On behalf of the trustees, faculty, and staff of Pomona College, and especially of the members of the senior class who will receive their degrees today, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 124th Commencement Exercises of Pomona College. On this occasion, I would like to extend particular thanks and appreciation to the family and friends of the class of 2017. You have provided the support and encouragement for the graduating seniors, bringing them to this turning point in their lives. You come from nearby, the cities of Claremont, Pomona, and Los Angeles, or from far away, with 23 flags flying today to represent the countries of today's graduates. Graduation from college represents a great moment of change. It is the culmination of many years of schooling, initially broad and generalized, becoming more focused with time. In your 4 years at Pomona College, I hope and trust that you have discovered and valued the goals of a liberal education. First, to think critically and creatively. Second, to communicate effectively in speech and writing. And third, to carry with you a lifelong joy and passion for learning. Commencement is a fresh start, a beginning of a new life outside these college walls, in which the abilities and skills that you have gained here are the added riches that you bear in trust for humankind. Each member of the graduating class of 2017 has fully met the high standards of Pomona College. Each has contributed in varied and wonderful ways to our community, in the classroom, through research projects, to campus life, and through service to those around us. At yesterday's Class Day Awards ceremony, we learned some of the ways in which members of this class have distinguished themselves. At commencement, which is above all a celebration of the academic accomplishments of our graduates, it has been traditional to take special notice of one of these awards, the Rena Gurley Archibald Prize, which is given to the member of the graduating class with the highest academic achievement. This year, the Rena Gurley Archibald High Scholarship Prize is awarded to two students, Gail Hannah Gallagher and Timothy James Schaff. The educational mission of this college relies critically on close collaboration between students and teachers. Pomona College faculty members are dedicated to excellent teaching in all its settings, leading discussions in classrooms, supervising research projects in library or laboratory, coaching teams on athletic fields, preparing students for concert or theater performances, guiding artists in studios. And so every year at this time, as it awards degrees to its graduates, the college also honors those of its faculty who exemplify teaching at its best, the winners of the college's Whig Award for Excellence in Teaching. This award is granted each year by a committee of trustees and faculty on the basis of ballots cast by students. It is the highest honor the college awards to its faculty. Let me ask this year's winners of the Whig Award for Excellence in Teaching to stand as I read their names. Professor of Computer Science, Su-Yi Chen. Associate Professor of Physics and Astronomy, Philip Choi. Assistant Professor of Economics, John Clitheroe. Associate Professor of Mathematics, Vin De Silva. The David J. Baldwin Professor of Music and Choral Conductor, Donna DeGrazia. Assistant Professor of Computer Science, David Kauchak. George E. and Nancy O. Moss, Professor of Economics, Michael Kuhlwein. And Associate Professor of Anthropology and Gender and Women's Studies, Pardis Madhavi. One lesson that I hope every graduating student will take from this college is that the accomplishments of people working together are greater than those of single individuals, however distinguished. Pomona College strives to foster collaborative work between students and with faculty. The chief goal of its staff is to enhance the educational experiences that take place on campus. On this occasion, we are also connected to past and future. The college that we see today and that will educate future generations is here because of the hard work, distinguished accomplishments, and generous support of past members of our community, the literally thousands of people who have taught, worked, and studied here, and the donors who have sustained them. We are particularly honored to have with us today, along with faculty, students, staff, family, and friends, 14 members of the college's Board of Trustees, led by our board chair, Samuel Glick, of the class of 2004. I invite all of you to a reception immediately following the ceremony on Marston Quad. Today, we welcome a new class into this great fellowship. And so, in each other's company and in the great tradition of all those who have taught, studied, worked, and played at this college over the years, let us now proceed to celebrate the class of 2017 and launch them on their way. Thank you.
Good morning, class of 2017, families, staff, faculty, trustees, and honorary degree recipients. I am grateful to have served as the senior class president to the class of 2017, and I hope my words resonate with you all in some way. I want to pause here to do a couple of things. The first is to honor the land that we're all on, Tongva land, which cannot ever be forgotten, especially on a day that celebrates the culmination of our time here. The second is to wish mothers in this space and those watching a happy Mother's Day, acknowledging that not everyone celebrates Mother's Day on this day. Happy Mother's Day to mothers who live with us in spirit, non-traditional mothers, adoptive mothers, queer and trans mothers, immigrant mothers, undocumented mothers, transnational mothers, Black mothers, mothers of color, mothers who are faculty, staff members, dining hall workers, housing and groundskeepers at Pomona. Mothers walking across the stage today, and mothers in every sense of the word. Feliz Día de la Madre a todas las mamás, especialmente a la mía. Gracias, and thank you for all that you do. About this time a year ago, a friend in the class of 2016 listened to me as I shared my anxieties about becoming a senior. Will I job hunt or apply to graduate school? What should I write my thesis about? And how can I make the most out of my last year? My friend responded, senior year is when you really desperately need each other. I listened, nodded politely, and I wondered what that meant. Now, around a year later, I've come to realize that those words were not only completely accurate about senior year, but by the events that have unfolded in the last few years, I can say that we desperately need each other beyond our undergraduate years. In the past year alone, we have witnessed local, national, and global events that have tried our communities. The loss of lives in Orlando, the ongoing murders of Black lives, and the unjust policies of a new political administration. All of these events directly affected Pomona students, staff, faculty, and families. Given this context, I want to spend these minutes talking about care. We have responded, adapted, and cared in various ways as an institution and within spaces such as resource centers, clubs, and community engagement, athletic teams, and so forth, as well as with acts of protest and demonstration. This year held many instances where members of Pomona gathered together. The vigil for the passing of physics professor Alfred Kwok, who I unfortunately did not have the pleasure of meeting, as well as an event on Marston Quad for a collective response to the new political administration, where faculty, staff, and students gathered to process, heal, and be present with one another. While we are all members of Pomona College, we do not all belong to the same communities. From my own experience, I found belonging in the undocumented group of students at Pomona. I especially felt our strength on the night of the presidential election. We all gathered and watched. We felt each other's hearts slowly start to hurt as the results became more clear. While everyone processed the outcome in different ways, I witnessed our collective quickly work with Pomona to ensure that those of us on campus, as well as our families, would feel safety. My questions to the class of 2017 as we depart here today are the following. How do moments of care and community transfer to our lives outside of our Pomona communities? How do we sustain the relationships we have made here and keep each other accountable? How have you cared for yourself and for others? And how have you received care from others? Many of us are all too familiar with caring. We have created spaces on these campuses to care for ourselves and members of our communities, oftentimes without appreciation or recognition. Without care, our movements and efforts have shaky foundations. We must care in order to sustain each other and to sustain our collective work towards a more just and equitable future. With authentic caring, there are possibilities of resistance and change, something that I grappled with but ultimately came to believe in during my time at Pomona. As we leave here today, when care is at the core of what we do, we can create the change that is possible. Thank you and congratulations, class of 2017.
Thank you. I just would like to first say thank you again to Kim for those words. They were beautiful. And again, good morning, staff and faculty, friends and family, my fellow classmates, and the Board of Trustees. Before I start, I would like to also echo Kim and say Happy Mother's Day. I would like to especially say thank you and I love you to my mom, who is sitting in the audience and had no idea I was doing this speech until right now. I think she's over there crying. When thinking about what to say in my speech today, I really wanted to find a theme that encompasses my experiences at Pomona and that would also resonate with all of you. So today, I decided to talk about leadership. If you were to ask my parents, they would tell you that I was born a leader, which I was. If you were to ask my younger siblings, they would tell you I was always bossy, which is also true. Being the oldest of 8 children, I took on a leadership role in my household at a very young age. It was always important for me to set a good example and be a leader and role model for my siblings because they were always watching me. And I'm glad they're all here today because graduating from Pomona College is more than just an accomplishment for me. It is an accomplishment for my entire family, and it is the beginning of many accomplishments to come. I would just like to take a second to tell my family to stand. Brittany and Cynthia, you too. I love you. Thank you. My family has always made me feel like a leader, but my journey through Pomona has given me the tools and knowledge to strengthen my leadership skills and put them into practice. Being a student at Pomona, I have learned how to plan and lead everything from presentations and parties to protests and demonstrations. As a posse scholar, my leadership training for Pomona College started months before I had ever stepped foot on the campus. As a posse scholar, my 9 posse members and I delved into deep discussions about race, class, gender, religion, power structures, systems of domination, and so much more before we had ever attended a Pomona College class. Before meeting them, I thought that a leader was supposed to be the loudest, most outgoing individual that was always leading from the front. After spending time with my posse, I learned about many other leadership styles. Some of my posse members are leaders who listen more than they talk. Some of my posse members are leaders who use their voice to share thoughts of others in the group who weren't comfortable sharing. Some of my posse members are leaders who check in with everybody and do a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that everyone feels supported. And these are only a few of the leadership skills I've learned from my posse over the years. I love my posse. I don't know how many of my classmates remember the events that took place during freshman orientation, because there were a lot. But one in particular stood out to me over the past 4 years. We all sat in an auditorium as one of the deans of admissions was talking to us about how amazing our class was. I remember the dean saying how we had one of the most diverse class of leaders. Then the dean began to read off a list of leadership roles and asked everyone who this applied to stand up. They said, if you were the valedictorian of your high school, please stand. If you're a captain of a sports team at your school, please stand. If you were president of your high school, please stand. If you worked on a grant with NASA, please stand. And I remember looking around the room and watching each of us stand for various categories. And I was amazed and honestly a little intimidated. I can begin to imagine the things that this class would do when given the tools, funding, opportunity, and support. I have been blessed to have the support of my family, friends, staff members, and many great professors. Although as a freshman, I did not recognize how important and valuable their support would be in helping me become a leader on campus. In our freshman book discussion, I had the pleasure of meeting Dean Jan. As we were having our book discussion, Dean Jan asked my group, would we ask for help if we needed it? As we went around the room, everyone replied yes or maybe. And then it came to me, and I responded, no, I wouldn't ask for help. You see, coming into Pomona, I thought that a leader was supposed to do everything by themselves. And I wasn't used to asking for help and had no intentions on it. But the next semester, I ended up in Dean Jan's office trying to figure out how I was going to pick a major, fulfill my graduation requirements, and be successful at Pomona. Since then, my check-ins with her and asking for help from advisors, professors, and friends have become more frequent. So it's no surprise that a year later, when I found that I was pregnant, Dean Jan and my advisor, Professor Keela Tompkins, were some of the first people I went to on campus to seek support. I had no idea how I was going to manage being a full-time student and mom. I had never seen a student on campus with a child. After talking with many people, I had heard how difficult and how hard it would be to stay here and be a student and a mother. But if I gave up every time someone told me something was difficult or hard, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today, graduating with my daughter standing beside me. Having my daughter has really pushed me to think about my leadership, not only in theory, but to actually put it into practice and use the skills and knowledge I've learned here to create positive change in the world. After having my daughter, I really started to think about what type of society I wanted her to grow up in, and what do I do to make sure that it's not just a dream I have for her, but a reality. I took my daughter to her first protest when she was 5 months old. As I mentioned earlier, protesting, demonstrating, and negotiating are things I've learned and participated in at Pomona College. Many events have taken place over the past 4 years that have helped me realize the importance and necessity of leadership and support. These events have crushed our Claremont bubble and reminded many of us that although we are tucked away on this beautiful campus, we are not exempt and cannot escape or ignore the many issues that our society faces. I cannot forget the Black Lives Matter protests on our campuses and around the world and all the work that Black Lives Matter continues to do and fight for. I cannot forget Ferguson or Baltimore. I cannot forget all of the events of this past presidential election and the things that were going on globally before and have been going on ever since. And I cannot forget the sorrow, pain, fear, and anger that covered our campuses in the weeks after and still linger on, as well as the struggles and work that students, staff, faculty, and workers continue to do both on and off the campus to make our school and society a better place. After 4 years, I would have to agree with Pomona that our school is full of amazing student leaders. The class of 2017 is proof of that. I've had the privilege of being surrounded by these great leaders in my classrooms, at dining halls, in protests and marches, and throughout the Claremont colleges. But to my class, I ask, what's next? How will you continue to develop and use the skills and knowledge you've learned here and continue to be a leader once you leave Pomona College? While thinking about everything going on in the world, including our current U.S. leadership and the various communities being attacked physically, mentally, systematically, and politically, how will you support other leaders in those communities? I know some of us may be worried about what's next. And with the various paths and journeys that we are about to take once we leave here, some of us may be unsure about how we will continue to lead and be successful. And to all of you, I say, it's going to be difficult and hard, but don't let that stop you. There are many paths to success and ways to lead. And when there are no footsteps to follow in, don't be afraid to make your own. And although your path is your own, remember that you have the support of your family and friends. And remember, don't be afraid to ask for help. Congratulations to you all, and I can't wait to see what we do next.
Smiling valley, and hear your rolling river. I long to see your smiling valley, where we're bound away across the wide Missouri. 'Tis Shenandoah, since last I Shenandoah, dear rolling river. 'Tis Shenandoah, since last I
Educator and alumna Sarah Elgin serves as the inaugural Victor Hamburger Professor of Arts and Science, Professor of Biology, and a Howard Hughes Medical Institute professor at the University of Washington in St. Louis. She and her husband, Robert, class of 1966, have two children, Benjamin, who's a Harvey Mudd graduate in 1998, and Thomas, who graduated in 2005 at Pomona. As a young child, Sarah Elgin was drawn to science because it offered a concrete path to understanding the world around her. During her high school years, her chemistry teacher encouraged her to collect rainwater every time the Soviets conducted nuclear weapon tests above ground. Using a Geiger counter, she detected the resulting cloud of radioactivity that passed over Oregon. Sarah then came south, to Pomona College because of the NIH Summer Research Program. As a Pomona undergraduate, Sarah Elgin participated in a summer research program at the University of Leeds, where she characterized the egg stalk of the green lacewing fly. She received her BA in chemistry from Pomona and earned her PhD in biochemistry from the California Institute of Technology. Sarah Elgin is an outstanding interdisciplinary researcher whose expertise encompasses molecular genetics and genomics, as well as developmental and regenerative biology. She studies the dot chromosome, and her research focuses on the critical role of chromatin structure in gene regulation and the mechanisms that code for gene silencing or full gene expression. With funding from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, she also initiated the collaborative Genomics Educational Partnership that provides opportunities in genomics research for undergraduates from 110 institutions around the country. Sarah Elgin is also a leader in science education. She began her involvement with elementary science education by serving as a resource for her son's classrooms. These efforts blossomed and morphed into the NIH-funded Curriculum Development Program, which brings cutting-edge science curriculum to thousands of K-12 public school students in the St. Louis area. Sarah Elgin was also instrumental in developing a rigorous science outreach program for high school teachers. Mr. President, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Pomona College, it is my very great honor to present Sarah Elgin for the degree of Doctor of Science. Thank you.
Sarah Elgin, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Science in Pomona College, honoris causa.
Thank you. Parents and friends, students, faculty, trustees, President Oxtoby, I'm very honored to receive this degree from Pomona and would especially like to thank my Pomona professors, as well as those at Caltech and my high school teachers, for starting me on a career in both science and teaching. Being involved in the constant dialogue of science is a lot of fun. And today I want to briefly share with you what I think is the most critical lesson I've learned. It's an obvious one, the importance of communication, especially communication with people who have different ideas and different perspectives from my own. My lab group has made a number of important contributions over the past 50 years, but on reflection I've realized that our really good ideas, our novel experiments, our breakthroughs were truly not novel. Each came from putting together the knowledge of other people. As one example, I learned about the big, beautiful chromosomes of Drosophila from a friend of mine, Mary Lou Pardue, and I learned about the ability of antibodies to selectively tag proteins from Bill Dreyer, a faculty member at Caltech. Putting those ideas together allowed me and my students to develop a method to mark those proteins on the chromosomes to be able to discern their pattern. This has led us to a number of insights about how the DNA is packaged and how that helps control gene expression. This has been very useful in the burgeoning field now known as epigenetics. Today, of course, computer technology is making it easier than ever to share ideas, to collect and process data. So as you just heard, I've been able to expand a research class in genomics that I designed for my students at Washington University to include over 100 faculty and thousands of students. It's been great fun to bring this group together. The students are busy analyzing those fruit fly chromosomes, but now at the DNA sequence level. This type of collaboration and the discoveries that result would have been impossible a few years ago, but it can be done now. The problem is that that same technology has also made it easier for people to self-select the ideas to which they're exposed, to only learn about facts that are convenient for their worldview. So many of us in academia, and I suspect folks in general, are wondering, what can we do? How can experts best engage in public dialogue in an age of social media? How can we engage as teachers? The question may sound a bit arrogant, but I think it's important. Successful engagement will require humility because it will require dialogue. Whether you folks pursue a career formally in education or not, you are all going to be called upon to be teachers in mentoring a colleague, helping a friend, or coaching your child. I hope you approach these challenges by thinking about, what is it that I want my student to know and be able to do? And how will I give her opportunities to engage with these new ideas, practice that skill, or exercise that knowledge? We all learn from active participation, and we all learn from dialogue. My goal for my students in genomics is that they learn to work from evidence, to look for and consider all of the evidence in building their models, in their case of fruit fly genes. The world is complex, and detailed scrutiny and analysis are needed to maintain a healthy planet. Using all of the data, real and not alternative facts, must be the focus. The knowledge that we can apply to our practical problems, be they global warming, keeping people healthy, maintaining a public education system, has never been greater. But the real gains, the breakthroughs, the creative solutions will come when you talk with different people to find those different kinds of knowledge which, when put together, give you the next step forward. So as someone who attended Pomona in the 60s, which I can vouch were also turbulent times, I can tell you that Margaret Mead was right. A group of thoughtful, committed citizens really can change the world. Really, it happens. It's happened before. It will happen again. I can also assure you that the struggle to make our world a better place has never finished. I know that each of you is an excellent student and can be an excellent teacher. Please keep learning and keep teaching. We need you all. To the class of 2017, congratulations.
Gay McDougall was born in the racially segregated American South, banned in her own country from many public places. The first black student to integrate Agnes Scott College. Imagine how she must have felt. Not just the only black student in the classroom, but across the campus. She went on to get a law degree from Yale. She's a school on the East Coast named after a street in Claremont. A surprisingly common practice. From then on, her life was dedicated to the use of the law, and particularly international law, to combat and redress racial inequalities, discrimination, and the repression of minorities around the world. This she did as director of the Southern Africa Project at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and the Law, where she gave me my first job in the US in 1988, thank you.
Wise choice.
Thank you. And as executive director of Global Rights, Partners for Justice, and as the first UN independent expert on minority issues. There are three things about Gay's life that are particularly inspiring to me. First, although she experienced discrimination firsthand, She has used that experience to fight, first and foremost, for others. She turned structural obstacles and personal pain into a force for transformative empathy. Second, she used the law and peaceful legal activism to fight and undermine the policies of the greatest power on earth, the United States government, and its ill-advised constructive engagement with South Africa in the 1980s, and to help take down the strongest and vilest system in Africa, the apartheid regime. Third, she sets her sights very high. Through systematic, rigorous, and relentless research and activism, she was a key mobilizer in getting Nelson Mandela freed in 1990. Imagine putting that on your resume. Professional goals, ending apartheid and freeing Mandela, and getting it done. Gay McDougall, your exceptional achievements, deep humanity, and universal citizenship are a great inspiration to all of us on this wonderful day. Mr. President, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Pomona College, it is my very great honor to present Gay McDougall for the degree of Doctor of Law.
Gay McDougall, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws in Pomona College, honoris causa.
I made a wise choice in hiring him. I am really thrilled to be here today and to receive this honor, and I want to thank Pomona College. I want to thank the students. I want to thank the faculty and the administration, and of course the Board of Trustees. The first time I was here on this campus was in 2005, when my now late husband, John Payton, was also given an honorary degree and gave the commencement address. John graduated from Pomona College in 1973. When he died in 2012, he was a member of the Board of Trustees. Excuse me a minute, this thing is going to choke me here. So, when John came and spoke to the class of 2005, he spoke about the critical threats to our democracy that existed then. And he charged the graduates of 2005 to take responsibility for safeguarding the freedoms that we, the people, cherish in our Constitution. His warnings about threats to our democracy, of course, are even greater today than then. But I want to focus on the fact that I think that our problems are so much larger than that. Fledgling democracies all over the world are under threat. The human rights movement at this moment in history is being beaten back. Those who stood up for the Arab Spring are in jail or under house arrest. Nelson Mandela's great legacy to South Africa is being squandered by tribalism. Racist hate speech is no longer taboo. And in every country that I have visited, in every region of the world, including places in this country, ethnic, racial, and religious minorities end up also being the poorest of the poor. They have higher levels of poverty, without question. They have less access to education, healthcare, and basic services, and they are denied most decent and they're denied most decent employment opportunities. And now, every day, as we watch on our television screens or read on the front pages of our newspapers, to see the scenes of suffering as masses of men, women, and children risk, and in all too many situations, they lose their lives as they try desperately to get to Europe in order to escape the chaos that is going on in their countries. How can we not search ourselves and our souls for some degree of responsibility? And as the tides are sweeping the bodies of babies up on the shores of the Mediterranean, European countries are preparing to meet them with racist xenophobia. They are closing their borders, and they're forcibly kicking all refugees out of their countries. And we here, well, we're building walls, and we're denying visas to those who would be the best of America's future innovators. But as bad as all this sounds, we can fix this. The future is really not inevitable. These are all problems that have solutions. And those solutions are within our reach. We simply have to care enough about finding those solutions. We have to have empathy. And we must not be fooled into thinking that we can ignore the plight of people suffering merely because they're on the other side of the globe. It comes back to us. After all, as I've said often to people, it's those sweatshops that I've seen in Southeast Asia that make the designer jeans affordable for working class people in this country. We're all connected in this economy. To you, the class of 2017, you're very fortunate. You are graduating from one of the best and most prestigious institutions in the world. And you are entering a job market that has single-digit unemployment for college grads. And this world you are inheriting is one of incomparable wealth, resources, and technical know-how. The only problem is, in the midst of all of those resources, there is incredible hunger, poverty, and despair. But as I say, you can fix this. You have the power to find the solutions to these problems. And I think that you have been prepared by one of the best institutions in the world to find those solutions. You just have to care. You, class of 2017, you can be the first generation in human history to end hunger, poverty, and racism as we know it. So go to it. Thank you very much.
Rick and Susan Sontag arrived in Claremont, California in the summer of 1960. She was a politics major at Pomona College. He was a physics major at Harvard College. Not only was this, now I found out that they knew each other from before, but I didn't know that. Not only was this the beginning of a relationship that led to a marriage of over 50 years, but also the beginning of another lifetime relationship, this one with a liberal education. Rick and Susan, through the engagement with the liberal arts, have achieved what David Foster Wallace describes as the freedom, quote, the freedom that involves attention and awareness and discipline and effort, and being able to truly care about other people. Rick and Susan have been extraordinary stewards for the liberal arts, particularly with their continued engagement and their love for the Claremont colleges. At Pomona, they founded the LEED Platinum Certified Sontag Residence Hall, Student Research Fellowships, and most recently, in 2015, the Rick and Susan Sontag Center for Collaborative Creativity, or like we know it here, the HIVE. As a matter of fact, at the Sontag Center, I witnessed Rick and Susan's commitment to the Claremont colleges. Students from all 5 colleges participate in the different activities at the HIVE. Rick and Susan believe in finding creative ways to make the world a better place, and from those suffering from cancer to students who want to change the world. From hospitals to the HIVE, there's no doubt that Rick and Susan Sontag have not only been loyal to this college, but they have enhanced the well-being of countless others by bearing their added riches in the trust for humankind. Mr. President, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Pomona College, it is my very great honor to present Rick and Susan Sontag for the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Rick Sontag, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters in Pomona College, honoris causa.
Well, thank you, trustees of Pomona College. Susan apologizes because she was physically unable to be here today, but I am going to stand in for the both of us. So first of all, let me say thank you to the trustees, Board of Trustees, and to the faculty of Pomona and all the rest of you for these awards. We're really honored and humbled. I think I would like to acknowledge the fact that while we may be receiving these degrees with our names on them, it's actually our family that's had a very long relationship with both Pomona College and the city of Claremont. For example, my Uncle Fred was a professor here for 57 years. So when I look at these degrees, I think that I'd like to accept them on behalf of the whole family and not just the two of us. I do have a few words to say to this graduating class. And I've been told to keep it short, so I will. Sometimes the most important decisions in your life are really totally unplanned. They come from just a set of facts and circumstances beyond your control that require you to make a decision. And Susan and I were no stranger to that thought, and you can take our example. About 20 years ago, we had a very happy, productive life. Good marriage, good family. I was an entrepreneur with a fairly successful business, and life was good. Then, on one night in 1994, all of that changed. That night, Susan suffered a stroke. She was diagnosed with a terminal form of brain cancer and was given 3 years to live. That totally rocked our life and our world. Something that wasn't in the plan. So guess what? By some miracle, Susan survived that disease. She's alive today, but with considerable disabilities. And we, like a lot of people who confront this kind of a situation, felt it was time for us to do something about that horrible disease. And as we thought about it, we came to realize that we were in a really unique position that most people are not in. I had a lot of years of management experience. We had a successful company with financial resources, and we had the most interesting, unusual, unique commodity available, and that is that we went through the experience of Susan's suffering the disease and being a survival of a disease that is normally fatal. We both lived through that experience, and we both therefore had a lot of perspectives about how that disease affects people and what we might be able to do about it. We were in a position to do something that was a lot different from most people affected by that disease because we had all these things going for us before it happened and went through the experience. All it required was for us to really make a decision to do something and make a life change. And that's what we did. We sold our business. We took part of the proceeds from that business. We started a foundation. I became the president of that foundation as my full-time job. I'm still doing that today. And we took the foundation, initially sponsoring medical research related to brain cancer. That grew and evolved to programs for patients to support them in their fight against the disease. And today, as a result of that, and a result of those efforts, our work, our foundation, our other organizations that we've developed is one of the most well-known and the broadest organizations of its kind in brain cancer. And we've had the pleasure of having a positive effect on the lives of thousands of people through the efforts that we do. The most significant decision of our lives was totally unplanned. And so the lesson in all this, for I think all of you, is I know you've got your plans of what you're going to do when you leave here today, but I would be willing to bet you that life is going to hand you some other events. Into your life is going to come something totally unplanned, something you didn't expect, and you're going to be facing potentially similar decisions to what we faced when that happened to us. And all I can say is that when you face those set of circumstances that beg for a decision, Susan and I hope that you will step back, make the right kind of life choice, so that when you're here, as I am today and Susan is today, facing the end of your life and the end of your career, you feel as satisfied as we do that your life made a difference in this world. Thank you.
Who is Brian Schatz? This was the headline of not one but two Washington-based news articles the week of December 24th, 2012, when Hawaii Governor Neil Abercrombie tapped Schatz to fill the late Senator Daniel Inouye's seat in the United States Senate. Using phrases such as relatively unknown and plucked from obscurity, the Washington media highlighted Schatz's young age, his work in the nonprofit sector, and the fact that he studied philosophy at a small West Coast liberal arts college. What could possibly be more obscure than that? Fast forward 4 years. Washington and the rest of the country has its answer to the question, who is Brian Schatz? Senator Schatz is an emerging leader on issues like the environment, access to higher education, healthcare, thank you, and corporate accountability. But that's Brian Schatz, the senator. What about Brian Schatz, the sage hen? Sage hen Brian followed his older brother Jake to Pomona College in 1990. He chose philosophy as a major because he wanted to hone his problem-solving skills. I have it on good authority that he adamantly refused to wear socks or closed-toed shoes at Pomona. It was flip-flops only for 4 years. Sage hen Brian spent his free time, I'm told, playing pickup basketball on campus. He was known to return from hikes, both around campus and in his home state of Hawaii, with his pockets full of trash that he had collected on the trail. He also returned from his study abroad experience in Kenya with malaria. Sorry about that. Brian's friend and fellow co-ed at Pomona, Professor Joe Harden, who's sitting behind me on the bleachers here, recalled that people in Brian's life were constantly asking him, "What are you going to do with a degree in philosophy?" And she remembers responding on his behalf, "Brian is going to save Hawaii." Well, he's not wearing flip-flops today. And maybe he's not playing pickup basketball as regularly. But Sage Hen turned Senator Brian Schatz is still taking care of the earth. And he's doing his part to save Hawaii and the planet with his philosophy degree. Mr. President, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the faculty of Pomona College, it is my very great honor to present Brian Schatz for the degree of Doctor of Laws.
Brian Schatz, by the power vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Laws in Pomona College, honoris causa.
Thank you very much for this incredible honor. I didn't expect for it to be emotional for me. First of all, it bears repeating, Happy Mother's Day. Second of all, I want to, before I get into my more formal remarks, I want to recognize President Oxtoby. You are so fortunate to have been led by such an extraordinary academic, such an extraordinary administrator, and I'll just tell you one of the things that I think makes him special, even among extraordinary people and presidents of colleges and universities, is I was sitting right next to him, and as those two students spoke, there was a tear in his eye. And there aren't that many people who care so deeply about all of you, and you are very, very lucky. So, President Oxtoby. So, Mr. President, to the Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, fellow recipients of honorary degrees, thank you for this great honor. It is great to be back at Pomona, and to the class of 2017, you did it. Congratulations. To the parents, the grandparents, siblings, family, friends sitting behind today's graduates, on behalf of the graduates, thank you. Thank you for the love you've given. Thank you for the moral support that you've given, the money that you've given to make today happen. This is a day of celebration, but it is also a day of great gratitude, so thank you. To the graduates, if you remember one thing that I talk about today, I hope it's the story of a person named Tony DeBrum. Tony DeBrum was the climate change envoy for the Marshall Islands, a country between Hawaii and the Philippines that's made up of 1,200 tiny little islands with 50,000 people. Everything is at sea level. The rising Pacific Ocean has eroded makeshift seawalls and contaminated fresh water so that the land is disappearing almost as fast as it's becoming useless for farming. It's a pretty place, and it's a unique island culture, but to be blunt, any diplomat from the Marshalls is not exactly an international power player. Tony DeBrum once told the Environment Minister of India that climate change was going to sink the Marshalls into the ocean. And the Indian minister responded by saying, so what? But even without raw power, even with other larger countries showing him disrespect, he would not be deterred. He remained committed to saving his country from climate change. And he did what he could with what he had. And his moment to change everything comes in 2015, when diplomats from every country gather in Paris for the United Nations Climate Change Conference, an annual event for countries to try to come to an agreement about what to do about the climate. And it's just like every other year, no one is really optimistic about the outcome. But Tony has a plan. At the start of the conference, he puts together a dinner for negotiators from several different countries, and that dinner becomes the first unofficial meeting of what he calls the High Ambition Coalition, a group of countries committed to a highly ambitious agreement on climate. And their message is very simple. We have to do more or we will perish. They hold a press conference to try to convince people that an ambitious agreement is possible, that the political climate exists. But everyone is still assuming that the bigger polluters, countries like China, India, Saudi Arabia, will push for a low ambition deal and succeed. At the second to the last big session of the conference, Tony gathers all of the members of the High Ambition Coalition, and this has grown from just a handful to many, many countries, and marches them into the negotiating room. Imagine these diplomats from nearly 100 countries marching together into a conference center in unity to do the right thing on climate. They are way out on a limb. They have no idea if it's going to succeed. But lacking raw economic or political power, they do what they can. And it works. It creates a moment when people start to believe that this thing is really possible, that we can make the kind of climate deal that will enable these island nations to survive. Up until the last moment of that conference, people felt that it could go either way. But when the gavel came down at the end of the Paris meeting, 195 countries had committed for the first time to lower greenhouse gas emissions and fight climate change. This was the biggest climate agreement in the history of the world. It was the deal that Tony had hoped for, all because he did what he could with what he had, all because one man without power or pedigree did not assume that someone else would save his home. So a year after the Paris Agreement, a woman from my home state was shocked and angry when Donald Trump won the election. Teresa Shook, a grandmother and retired attorney living in Hana, Maui, decided that she was going to do what she could with what she had. So she went on to Facebook and suggested that women march on Washington, D.C. Before she went to bed that night, a few dozen of her friends had responded, but she woke up and hundreds of thousands of people had responded. She woke up the following morning to find out that there was a march that was now a movement. 10 weeks later, 5 million people marched in thousands of places around the globe. And the resistance was born because Teresa Shook did what she could with what she had. Since inauguration, I've been thinking a lot about something that Ben Franklin once said. He was leaving a meeting about the future of the United States, and he was asked, Dr. Franklin, do we have a republic or a monarchy? And he answered, a republic, if you can keep it. Ben Franklin's challenge is all too relevant today. Can we keep our republic? Can we save our planet? Can we build a more just, more free society? Well, the answer actually depends, and it depends on all of you. Now, I remember my graduation. I was interested in service, but I had this sense, or maybe it was a hope, that people older, wiser, smarter, more powerful than me were sort of taking care of the big stuff. This is a myth. That wasn't supposed to be a laugh line, but it is a myth that relieves us of the responsibility to be equal to the moment. It is a myth that relieves us of the responsibility to reach our potential. It's a myth that misunderstands how history is made. It's a myth that comes from Hollywood with heroes and villains that are literally larger than life. But it is a myth that you must kill. There is no one older, wiser, smarter, more powerful than you figuring these questions out. The future is on you. The world needs you to do what you can with what you've got. You are graduating in a unique time in the history of the world. I'm in my 5th decade on the planet, and I promise you this is not normal. The climate is imperiled. The American experiment is being tested again. Society is frayed. Trust in institutions is low. trust in each other is low. And so we need your courage and your talent to meet the challenges of our time. And make no mistake, it is always the new generation. It is always young people meeting the test of their era. They were the ones who fought Nazism in World War II, who battled for civil rights, who battled for women's rights, who stopped the Vietnam War. At the end of the Paris climate meetings, every country had the opportunity to give a closing statement. And you might think that Tony de Broom would have been justified in taking a victory lap for himself and for the Marshall Islands. But he handed the microphone to an 18-year-old woman from the Marshall Islands named Selena Leem. She traveled 8,500 miles to tell this room full of powerful people how important this agreement was to her country and to its future. And she ends by saying that she hopes that the agreement is a turning point. And if the Paris Agreement stands, and I believe that it will, then she's right. The agreement will be history defining. Now, our country is yet at another turning point. And the question you face today is, are you going to be a part of it? Are you ready to do what you can with what you've got? Well, I'm hoping I can help you to answer that question. And I've got good news and bad news depending on your perspective. The good news is that you now have a degree, or almost, from one of the best colleges in the country. And as part of the Pomona family, you are an elite company. Look at Sarah Elgin. She's opened doors so that students can be part of scientific discovery. Look at the Sontags, two people who have built a place where students from all 5 colleges can make things happen, where they can innovate and collaborate. Look at Gay Payton, who has helped the world to make progress on some of the most difficult issues known to humanity: systematic rape, sexual slavery, apartheid. There is a long list of Pomona people who have blazed trails, opened doors, and made discoveries. They can serve as role models and mentors as you go forward. So that's the good news. The bad news, and again, it depends on your perspective, is that they call it commencement for a reason. Today is the beginning. And so everything you've done up until this moment, if you were in every club and aced every course, or if you were like me and you struggled through and missed deadlines or even a few classes, either way, it doesn't matter a whole lot, because now you're back at the beginning. During my time at Pomona, I was a marginal student at best, honestly. I loved my time here, but I was anxious, I was aimless, I played a lot of pool and pinball, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Ms. Pac-Man, but that's what I did. I had no idea what I was going to do, and so I majored in philosophy. So it was my, look at that crowd. So I was in my senior year, and I was sitting with my, one of my philosophy professors, a person named Jay Atlas, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I asked him if I should pursue a PhD in philosophy, and he sort of leaned back, and he paused, and he said, "Brian, you lack a certain rigor." So I still remember Professor Erickson's comments on the last paper that I ever turned into him, and it read, "Brian, we both know that you are better than this, and that is what matters." I'm telling you this not to embarrass myself, although I've done a pretty good job of it, but to illustrate a post-college truth. If you did great in college, good for you. But if you stumbled across the finish line, if you barely finished your thesis, that's okay too. What matters most is what you do next. I know it was not easy to get here today. You've been under tremendous pressure for so long. For some of you, it started more than a decade ago. You've been trying to make your families proud and to be equal to your incredible potential. You've been trying to do right by all of the people who are sitting behind you today, and you've managed your time with precision, and you've done your work with discipline. You've succeeded. But what does success look like in the next phase of your life? You have been taught for much of your life that your job is to do well. Fair enough. But now your job is to do good. And that's the difference. That's what graduation and commencement are all about. Do well if you want, but make certain that you do good. There's one more person I want to tell you about. It's my dad, Dr. Irv Schatz. In the 60s, he was right out of medical school starting his career, and he read an article in a medical journal about a study on syphilis. The researchers approached a group of African American men in rural Alabama and offered them free health care. But what they really wanted to do was to study syphilis. So of the 600 participants, about 400 of them had the disease, which can be deadly. And instead of giving these men the proper treatment, the researchers withheld the cure for decades, all so that they could, quote, observe the disease process. My dad was outraged, and he did the only thing that he could. He wrote a letter to the author of the study and the United States Public Health Service. Frankly, it wasn't a satisfying moment of protest. He never got a response, and in typical fashion for my father, he never told anybody that he even wrote the letter. But years later, the media found out, the Congress found out, and eventually the United States Public Health Service was prohibited as a matter of law from ever withholding medicine from sick people for the sake of research. And here's the thing for me, my dad could have easily not sent that letter, thinking that someone else, someone more important, someone more powerful, a medical ethicist, a journalist, a member of Congress, someone else must be in a better position to do something. He could have decided that because a letter was such a small thing to do, that maybe it wasn't worth doing at all. After all, who was he to try to fix that? But without my dad's small act, history would be different. And without Teresa Shook from Maui, there might not be a resistance or a women's march. And without Tony DeBrum, the planet might be in greater peril. They all did what they could with what they had. Every day is going to give you a chance to change the world, but it's not going to be clear when your moment arrives. I mean, life isn't a Marvel movie. When your opportunity for courage and leadership presents itself in an obvious way when the bad guys show up with ominous music. What do you do when human rights and civil rights are undermined during your comfortable life, minute by minute, sliver by sliver? What do you do when the sea levels rise millimeter by millimeter? What do you do when you see injustice, but your life is becoming more successful by the day? You do whatever you can with whatever you have. That is your responsibility as of today, as of your graduation from Pomona College. You have all done very well. Now you have to do good. Congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you, Senator Schatz. We will now proceed to the conferring of degrees.
Will the members of the class of 2017 please rise? Mr. President, upon the recommendation of the faculty of Pomona College and by vote of the Board of Trustees, I have the honor to present these candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Pomona College.
Now, by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you, as you individually present yourselves, the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Pomona College with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto.
Paul Vincent Crisanta. Nico Joseph Tutland. Ellie Bean Abrams. Chiazam Agu. Max Francis Aguero. Nadia Elena Alain. Matthew Von Alexander. Jeffrey Richard Allen. Helen Ruth Alpern. Kenneth Hyunjun On. Andikin Archibong. Aldair Ariola Gomez. Carolyn Patricia Atkinson. Melissa Viviana Avina. Kian Bogari. Sophia Fatima Beg. Matthew William Bainham. James David Baker. Anthony Peter Bald. Catherine Biela Benobi. Erin Elizabeth Berry. Teresa Claire Burton. Robert Anthony Beckles. Caden Behan. Anthony Bello. Clive Robert Bender. Aaron David Bendix Bogley. Danica Elizabeth Bethune. Nathan Mark Billett. Grace Suzanne Boatman. Samin Boparai. Mary Claire Sarah Bosco. Madeline Claire Bosi. Beshoy Botros. Aurora Hesper Brockman. Alexander Paul Bressler. Grace Ann Brew. Nicholas George Broadburr. Miles James Burton. Tanner Kenneth Byer. Dulce Selena Cabrales Cid. Melis Ezgi Chakar. Eric Hayden Campbell. Richard Canton Restrepo. Emma Victoria Carpenter. Benjamin Layton Carroll. Maria Florenzia Caruso. Natalie Elizabeth Casey. Alejandra Margarita Castillo Roldan. Daniel Thomas Castillo. Michelle Stephanie Chan. Tiana Mudiwa Chunaiwa. Owen Shojiro Chapman. Ayman Shafiq Chaudhry. Alejandro Chavez. Jillian Yi Chen. Jiachi Chen. Peter Yuanxi Chen. Stephen Lin Chen. Esther C. Ying. Emily Chittick. Nicholas Youngjun Chong. Derek Spencer Che. Nare Choi. Wonhyuk Choi. Hannah Elizabeth Christensen. Ayun Alice Chung. Marco Chung. Bianca Kendall Cockrell. Maxwell Pierce Coleman. Genael Yvonne Collin. Grace Bolton Connaughton. Julia Ann Cohen, summa cum laude. Samantha Tanyu Koyuto. Catriona Mari Craven Matthews. Sean Timothy Kremen. Matthew Daniel Dahl. Jingjie Dai. Ian Lindsay Jill Dongla. Rodrigo De Leon. Preston Nicholas DeGarmo. Kelly Lynn Dara. Michael Malone Diamond. Catherine Manning Ricks Dalginus. Lucas Gabriel Souza dos Santos. Anna Victoria Dowling, summa cum laude. Molly Sins Driscoll. Agueda Gabriela Dudley Barrios. Olivia Alban Jewer. Colin Richard Eckstein. Claire Elizabeth Eldridge Burns. Matthew James Eva. Connor Cuskely Fanlow. Amelia Grace Feinberg Eddy. Federica Fernandez Gonzalez. Eli William Fessler. Mitchell Harry Finkel. Zoe B. Flavin. Feather Rose Flores. Lena Catherine Fox. Skylar Francis Fox. Emma Natalie Fredgant. Charles Edward Fries. Kai Glenn Fukutaki. Ethan Roy Fukuto. Karina Fushimi. Gail Hannah Gallagher, summa cum laude, and Rena Gurley Archibald High Scholarship. Connor Matthew Galvin. Felipe Galvis Delgado. Sarah Weeks Gamble. Araceli Garcia. Abigail Ann Gardner. David Flavia Garrix. Logan Gilbert. Devin Latrail Gladys. Stephen Joseph Glick. Corey Michelle Abelson Gels. Leslie Gomez. Delphina Perlidith Gonzalez. Jayakrishnan Gopa Kumar. Daniel Amos Gordon. Madeline Elise Gordon. Devin Michelle Gowdy Powell. Sarah Binti Maruf Granke. Andrea Elise Green. Miranda Astrid Green. Anastasia Sarah Grebe. Matthew Stewart Griffith. Ernesto Rafael Gutierrez Topetti. Eliza Kalila Halpern. Adam Frederick Hathaway. Zachary Evans Hauser. Adam Yolin Ha. James Parker Head. Lada Sofia Hernandez. Casey Leo Hirschfeld. Willa Virginia Hevley. Catherine Marie Hill. Joshua Magnus Hirschfeld Crowan. Juliana Mariella Hitchens. Peter Henry Hoekstra. Noam Hurwitz. Xiang Huang. Life Jerome Yan. Ian Joaquin Jaime. Ella Regine Jarvik. Kyle Wesley Jensen. Sunhee Jung. Chong Hyun Jin. Justin Thomas Joseph. Helen Jund. Sybil Kapos. Maya Call. Jonah Samuel Kay. Timothy Michael Keber. Jamie Lynn Carister. Sana Khan. Joseph Donald Kiefer. Jennifer Rosa Kim. John Sangyeob Kim. Joshua Kim. Peter Pan Suk Kim. Ruby Kim. Soo Yun Kin. Andrea Christine Kimball. Bradley Hunter King. Kyla Marie King. Laura Jean Kiro. Jaira Ko. Kelly Ann Kokame. Sarah Ann Latimer Colder. Mary Alice Kuhn. Ursula Koo. Emily Chieko Kubota. Beauty A. Kucher. Jason King Lammert. Evelyn Landau. Nicholas Dylan Lanker. Madeline Michelle Larkin. Keegan Jeffrey Lavin. Catherine Murray Lawson. Ariana Pachi Lee. Dassel Christine Lee. Diane Lee. Jian Kit Lee. Matthew Lee. Sujin Alex Lee. Susanna Catherine Lee. Magdalene Mari Lemons. Noah Zachary Lesko Kanowitz. Raichi Lee. Sabrina Jiaying Lee. Jesse Solomon Lieberfeld. Nolly Elo Lin. Hannah Lucia Lippard. Patrick Clinton Little. James Lucas Littlejohn. Xuanxi Liu. Rebecca Frances Palmer Long. Jasmine Lorena Lopez. Jennifer Andrea Lopez. Mark Temis Lozano. Benjamin Yenji Liu. Yichen Liu. Frank Connor Leals. Xiang Ma. Jessica Lizette Manzano Valdez. Nonkululeko Mapalala. Haley Wells Marber. Vojislav Svetomir Maric. Franklin McBride Marsh. Bianca Noemi Martinez. Maria Martinez Lainez. Matthew John Marvin. Nia Pearl McAllister. Calvin Andrew Stone McMillan. Marcus James McVeigh. Kieran Colin McVeigh. Isaac Medina. Davis Wilcott Menard. Lane Nick Hugh Miles, summa cum laude. Madeline Gale Mink. Luke Mondragon. Eric Yang Montgomery. Liliana Mora. Tara Rose Morris. Fabian Koratuline Moten. Saad Nadim. Arjun Scott Nanda. Yashna Nandan. Elika Nasirinia. Thomas William Newmiller. Jennifer Nguyen. Tanner Reginald Nishioka. Anna Novikova. Ana Celia Nunez. Yasmin Ocampo. Nicholas E. Orozco Valdivia. Joshua Javier Ortiz Choche. Selena Esther Pacheco. Catherine Rose Page. Andrew Colin Page. Alexandra Christine Palmer. Frank W. Palmasano. Goen Park. Kristen Yoon Park. Na-Yoon Esther Park. Autumn Rosemary Cross Pelch. Nicole Fabiola Pena. Anthony James Perna. Maria Rose Pettis. Bronwyn Phillipson. Haley Hinton. Nicole Jessica Polyakov. Cyrus Caddison Poteet. Ethan Caleb Prater Fahey. Ralitsa Rachiva. Jaya Viveka Rojana. Tony Ramos. Samir SJB Rana. Brian David Rousey. Alexander James Razin. Nadia Leon Redmond. Nicholas Allen Reminder. Adam Joseph Ravello. Paula Odette Reyes Noriega. Yerika Akira Reyes. Daniel Rivera. Natalie Rivera. Thomas Alexander Rivera. Nat Rivkin. Connor Hardrick Roberts. Kelly Jean Rockwell. Kim Roderick. Nathaniel Joseph Roy. Quinton Scott Ruiz. Krista Joy Rutz. Reed Currington Rydberg. Liana B. Sudowski. Kira Francis Sanborn. Alexandra Sanchez. Estela Sanchez. Nathan Ross Sanford. John Walter Sawicki. Luke Perry Sawyer. Timothy James Schaff, summa cum laude, and Rena Gurley Archibald, High Scholarship. Ian Sam Schiffer. Taylor Daniel Schmidt. Anli Alice Shug. Emily May Scotch-Gale. Leo Morrow Selker. Jordan Stanley Shaheen. Patrick Shaw. Quinn Adrian Sheehy. Rebecca Claire Shipun. Grace Duval Shipton. Martin James Sicilian. Kiran Misra Sibel. Aurora Mariel Silva. Spencer Andrew Simodis. Abahi Raj Singh. Philip Marcin Skashashinsky. Dmitry Smirnov. Julia Page Smith. Sarit Rose Snyder. Kristen Brianna Sanella Softly. Isaac Solomon. Catherine May Song. Michaela Stevens. Kay Evelyn Sterner. Ashish Edward Streetfield. Elizabeth Claire Sun. Stephanie Angela Sun. Chong Luen Swen. Jessica Tan. Saher Taneja. Kathy Raquel Tang. Catherine Keeley Law Tao. Brianne Tasha Taylor. Ian Matthew Thomas. Daniel Chernhui To. Marta Marcilot To. Christina Mingyi Tong. Paul Lei Tron. Ariana Lene Tribe. Aaron Tsai. Maya Josephine Sao Wu. Thomas James Turner. Danielle Shiri Berman. Raquel Aida Valdez Ramirez. Jonathan Richard Van Harmelen. Raisa Austis Viestinsdotter. Kian Leifer Vestinson. Daniel Curtis Villers. Anastasia Voloshinov. Madison Grace Crimmins Vorva. David Wagner. Sean Francis Wake. Louis Ambrose Wallen. Johnny Chungning Wang. Kevin Moore Ward. Jackson Thomas Worley. Nina Warner. Samuel Lewis Warren. Charles Richard Watson. Natanicha Watanani Mitgut. Maya Catherine Weigel. Maya Zumwalt Welbel. Christina Lisa Williamson. Zachary Teal Wilson. Elise Kyle Winchester. Alexis Marie Ritkin. Elena Sharon Wu. Michael Joseph Wooker. Jiacheng Xia. Sushi Shang. Jason Shu. Ella Rebecca Yeros. Pranay Reddy Yachuru. Jiwan Yi. Xiaopeng Nan Yin. Song Yu. Wentao Yun, summa cum laude. Olivia Jane Zallison, summa cum laude. Mark Zahn. Yenny Sue Zhang. Daniel Albert Zhu. Huang Jian Zhu. Tiffany Zhu. Rachel Michelle Zimmerman. Rebecca Mary Yuckman. Kimberly Rojas Hernandez. Dominique Lashia Curtis.
The class of 2017. Let me begin my charge to your class with some personal remarks, as Pomona College is a very personal place. Each of the names of our graduating seniors has been read aloud by Dean Bilger, and you have each been recognized and applauded individually for your own accomplishments, as well as collectively as the class of 2017. Even the signatures on your diplomas are not printed or stamped, but individually signed by our board chair, Sam Glick, and me. That gives me a chance to pause and think about each member of the class at the end of 4 years here on campus. The personal approach at this college applies to sad events as well as happy. 2 weeks ago, at our memorial convocation, as I do each year on Alumni Weekend, I read aloud the names of those members of our board, our faculty, our staff, and our alumni who passed away during the last year, many of whom I knew personally. Next year, the name of a student, Junior Leah Bell, will be part of that list as we recognize in sadness her death in a tragic accident last weekend in Copenhagen. Our community has come together in the last week in personal support for one another. My wife Claire and I have deeply appreciated the personal connections we have had over the last 14 years with all of you at Pomona College. From the first-year picnics with Dutchie and his amazing Caribbean band, to the ice cream socials for sophomores in our kitchen, to dinners with members of the senior class. From conversations at athletic events to attending concerts or plays, this college has been our home. Many of you, members of the class of 2017, have come to speak with me individually or in groups about issues such as Black Lives Matter, immigration, homophobia and transphobia, the challenges faced by religious students on campus, and the barriers caused by income to full participation. I have learned so much from all of you. Thank you. Last summer, as I thought about my last year here at Pomona College, I could not have imagined all the challenges that would actually lie ahead. A phrase that people sometimes use about a departure from such a role is glide path, suggesting coasting in for a soft landing. This last year has instead been an extremely bumpy ride. Like many of you, I had trouble sleeping on the night after the national election last fall. Sitting at my desk at 4 a.m. on November 9, thinking about what to write to the community, one phrase kept passing through my head, and it started the message that I sent to all of you a few hours later. It was, on a day like this, the personal and the political cannot be separated. I feel that just as strongly now, 6 months later. For each of us, an issue such as immigration is not just an abstract question to be debated in Washington. It has a direct effect on the lives of particular members of our community and their families. A decision about prisons, about guns, or police conduct has direct consequences for individuals. A travel ban or a visa refusal changes the lives of particular individuals, as well as our country collectively. I am proud of how our community has come together in support of those who are most vulnerable on or off campus, here in Los Angeles or around the world. For example, Pomona has taken a lead nationally in organizing support for the DACA program and undocumented individuals in this country. Our response is a personal one because we are directly connected to those affected. So I call on you to engage politically and to use your Pomona education for that purpose. It's not enough simply to complain privately about some action being taken. Organize, protest, vote, run for office, engage in the political world. While some might think politics is a dirty word, we've heard from Senator Schatz today that it can also be a high calling and an opportunity to help craft solutions to some of the world's most pressing problems. It can be difficult, but sometimes you must compromise, and you must work with people with whom you disagree. In doing so, you might not always accomplish exactly what you want, but you just might move forward the causes you care deeply about. Political engagement may involve difficult choices where none are ideal. How many millions of people did not choose to vote last November because none of the candidates represented exactly what they wanted? We are living with those choices today. I encourage you to engage in the system and change it, not to be put off by its flaws and inequities. 1 million people gathering to protest, or 5 million, has an effect, but so do 1 million people casting their votes for a candidate, even an imperfect one. Last August at Convocation, your ASPC president, Christina Tong, spoke of the false dichotomy in national dialogue between free speech on the one hand and support for inclusion and diversity on the other. She said that we are capable of having compassion for our peers while rigorously debating ideas. That observation has been borne out through the year in many ways. A campus like ours must provide a setting where people with different views and different personal backgrounds can engage with one another and learn from those discussions. We must not give up on our values of celebrating diversity and inclusion and yield to fears of the other that are fostered by some in our society. We must also not allow the valued term free speech to be taken over by those who use it as an excuse simply to shout hate, rather than to engage in true discussion and thoughtful listening to those with whom we disagree. Over the years, I've sometimes been criticized for bringing political issues into commencement addresses. But to me, this is a day both to celebrate our graduates and to engage in discussion about difficult issues all of us have throughout our time on campus. Today is about both the personal and the political. They cannot be separated. We join together to celebrate your accomplishments over the last 4 years, but also to charge you to use your education, the added gifts with which you have been entrusted at Pomona College, to make a difference in the world. Congratulations and best wishes.